Okay. My name's Tanner. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. September 27th of 2019. For that, I'm truly, truly grateful. What an introduction. Man, good to be in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. This program truly saved my life. I wanted to start with reading this excerpt out of this book. The 11th step tells us to read outside books, and other spiritual literature. So this is a part out of it. And it really applies to my experience. This is from The Power of Now. Eckhart Tolle wrote this book. It says, a beggar has been sitting on the side of the road for over 30 years. One day a stranger walked by. Spare some change, mumbled the beggar. Mechanically holding on to his baseball cap, I have nothing to give you, said the stranger. Then he asked, what's that you are sitting on? Nothing, replied the beggar, just an old box. I have been sitting on it for as long as I can remember. Ever looked inside? Asked the stranger. No, said the beggar. What's the point? There's nothing in there. Have a look inside, insisted the stranger. The beggar managed to pry open the lid. With astonishment, disbelief, and elation, he saw that the box was filled with gold. I am the stranger that has nothing to give you and who is telling you to look inside. Not inside any box, as in the parable, but somewhere even closer, inside yourself. So that was my experience with Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I've been sitting on this box my whole entire life with my hand out. And I looked down on the world, from this self-righteous, resentful, hateful throne that I sat on, and it wasn't until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, completely, destroyed by alcohol, that they told me to look inside, and that's what I did. And they gave me this vehicle that does that, which are the 12 steps that push me towards God. So, like James said, I have a sponsor. My sponsor has a sponsor. Her sponsor has a sponsor. And I'm pretty involved in my home group, and Eastland Alcoholics Anonymous, the greatest group, on earth. Got plugged into some amazing people there. I sobered up in Midland, but I'll get to that. I grew up in a pretty regular household. There was some dysfunction. My whole childhood was raised up around work, blue collar work. My dad is one of us, absolutely. As far as work is concerned, and he was really, like me whenever he was a kid too. So there was a lot of dysfunction. There was a lot of fighting in the household, around work, around money, and I grew up never feeling a part of. We hear it in the rooms all the time. I just never felt a part of. I was so separated from everybody around me that I had this deep yearning, to be a part of something, and thought about the military, just all these different ways that I fantasized about, that I obsessed about, right, way before I ever found alcohol. I'm a firm believer in the singleness purpose. Just warning, I got some drugs in my story. I think it's not very common in AA anymore that someone doesn't. So it's just part of my story, and it all revolved around alcohol. So growing up, like I said, I never felt a part of it. I remember wanting to commit suicide, like fantasizing about suicide whenever I was like 10 years old, and I thought that was really weird. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I always judged everyone else's outsides and compared them to my insides, and it was just real weird to me. And I started obsessing about things at a very young age. Like I said, it was all these other things that would change the way that I felt, right? First, shot or, whatever. The first drug that I ever took was a lie because it changed the way that I felt. And what I thought at the time is that I thought that it made other people view me differently. So that was like where I really started to kind of venture into this sick thinking, I guess. So I started doing that. I was lying all the time. Whenever I was about 13, I took a drink, started smoking a little weed, and at that point, I was with a bunch of my buddies, and I truly felt a part of something at that point. There was camaraderie. I didn't have to hide this internal condition, and I just felt a part of, and that set forth a train in motion that, ended me up in Alcoholics Anonymous. So like I said, it drove my whole entire life, and getting into high school and stuff, started drinking all the time, started stealing, lying, chasing women, all the things that we do, which was just all a deep need to be accepted. And whenever that spiritual experience really took hold of taking a drink, I chased that stuff all the way to the bitter end. And, at the end, it eventually quit working. So high school, I'm raising hell. I'm fighting. I'm not going to school. Me and my parents are clashing like unbelief, and they didn't know what to do with me. No one knew what to do with me. Ended up going to, starting to go to jail. I got kicked out of high school. I was in all kinds of trouble, still doing the same stuff I was doing. I started venturing. I'm drinking all the time, every day in high school. That was my thing. And I start venturing off into other things, right? And I find cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin. I pick up the needle whenever I'm like 16 years old. And my life really, really, really starts to spiral out of control. So like I said, they kicked me out. No one knew what to do with me. I ended up moving out whenever I was about 18, and my life just becomes a party, and I'm robbing people. There's a lot of dark stuff that happened in that time, and all the way up till the end. And I didn't know it at the time, like the book talks about, that I have this phenomenon of craving, right, in the doctor's opinion. And the sense of ease and comfort that comes from taking a drink, whenever I ingest that drink, I can't stop. I can't stop until the craving's satisfied, which that's been my experience at times. I've gotten enough of it. And I'd get a week or two of sobriety, and then I'd fall back off. And then I'd take a drink, and craving, and I'm at it again. And I didn't know that's what was happening at the time. And I always wondered, all my friends, I started losing friends. I started losing my family, and I didn't realize that I am literally bodily different from my fellows. My body does not metabolize alcohol and drugs like other people's. And it wasn't until AA I realized that. So I get a little bit of time here and there, and then I fall back off. I end up ending up in AA meetings. About 17 years old, a family friend who in Midland ends up taking me to my first AA meeting, right? And I remember listening to the people in that meeting, and I was like, man, this is not good news for me. And I damn sure don't want to have to come to these meetings every day, like these people were doing. And, like I said, I was 17 or 18 years old, and I wasn't having it. I was far from done. I got like a month or two, just going to meetings, and sure enough, picked up a couple chips, and God, I can't even imagine what I was sharing in those meetings. But, the obsession would always, take back control and hold of my life. So, I'm in and out of AA. I ended up catching a couple charges, and probation wouldn't keep me sober, right? My family wouldn't keep me sober. AA, just going to meetings wasn't enough to keep me sober. All kinds of just bad stuff. It wasn't ever enough, right? Because I'm truly powerless over alcohol and drugs. It took a lot of experience to finally realize that, a lot of pain and suffering behind all that. But it takes what it takes, to get in the rooms. And so, like I said, I get off probation, and I don't know how I made it through all that stuff. By the grace of God, man, for real. Like, I don't know how I did. And I get off probation, and my life, I get off all these hard drugs, right? And I start coming down to Breckenridge, and I got some family down there, right? And they're hardcore alcoholics, man. I'm like, these are the people I really want to be hanging out with. They keep their shit together, for one, kind of. Better than me. So I need to get a little bit of what these guys got going on. So I dip off in the Miller Lite and vodka, man, and I'm drinking, 25 or 30 Miller Lite a day, every single day for the next like 7 years. Half a gallon of vodka, vodka in the mornings, vodka in the middle of the night, go back to sleep, shaking, DTs, the whole 9 yards. At the same time, I got off all these hard drugs, but I got on some prescription drugs, because that's all right. And Adderall and Xanax, and I got this concoction going. And don't get me wrong, like I said, there's drugs in my story, but it all revolves around drinking, man. I mean, it really does. It was all a way to enhance my drinking. And I did that for 7 years, man. And I'm pancreatitis, just a lot of bad health problems. I was able to hold down a job at that point in time. For those 7 years, I've worked for my family my whole life, and I still do today. Blessing and a curse, trust me. Only way I was able to stay employable was because I was working for my family. I will say that. And at this point in time, I'm the internal condition is still kicking my ass. I'll get a little bit of relief every now and then, and I'm just, and alcohol is still working at this point in time. There were some low spots in there, but they were like manageable, I guess, because I still had the bottle, and I still had the beer, and I still had the pill bottles, and all this stuff, and it was manageable. I guess you would call it manageable for me, anyways. What I viewed as manageable, and I was okay. I was, semi-okay for that period of time. I get a girlfriend, Jordan. So me and her have been together, 6 or 7 years, and like I said, everything was good, and it wasn't really that good. I don't know what kind of delusion I'm in right now, but it really wasn't that good. It was good for my standards, I guess you could say. And I meet this girl, right? And I've had a lot of girlfriends in the past, and she loves to do all the same things that I like to do: hunting, fishing, and we click, right? And we start to build this relationship, and everything's semi decent for a while. I end up moving around, and I'm still doing some shit on the side. Don't get me wrong, but I end up moving down to Breckenridge. I'd burned all my bridges in Midland. There was a rough spot at the end of that I ended up having to leave, and I moved down to Breckenridge, and I was like, well, this is good, and then I can do what I want with my cousins. I'll still be working for my dad. I'll be on the lake, for one, and we got some acreage out there, deer lease, all that stuff, and things were good for a while, and somewhere in there, man, I fell into this dark hole. I had this dog, right? His name was Tomascus. He was my best friend, and the way that he came to me was this divine act of providence, to where I developed this lifelong friend, that didn't judge me, didn't condemn me, didn't do all these things, right? And I developed this relationship with this dog that fully accepted me, that was unbelievable. I don't even know how to describe it. And I passed out drunk one night on the balcony in my dad's lake house, and he jumps off the balcony and ends up hanging himself. And I woke up to that. And it completely and totally broke me. I don't know what it was, just a dog, but to me it was just like my whole world came crashing down at that point in time. And I don't know what it was about it, man. Like whenever I took that dog from hanging from that leash and took it over to the lot, got the backhoe and dug a hole, I laid next to this hole in the ground for 2 days with this dog, with a gallon of vodka next to me, to the point where this dog started to stink. And it wasn't just some dog, It broke me. It really broke me. Something inside of me broke. It was, I lost my grandparents, I lost all this stuff, but this dog, how could this happen? And it was all my fault, right? And I could not live with myself anymore. That dog saved my life, man. It really did. And this is 4 years before I sobered up. Whenever that happened, I went into this deep downward spiral that just wrecked me. I ended up quit going back to Midland for my pills, and I'm really, really, really drinking. And I didn't have a way to enhance my drinking anymore to where I could drink the way that I wanted to drink without passing out. So, of course, I find the next best thing, and I graduate to methamphetamine. And it truly ravished my life. And there was about 3.5 years of that there. So I'm on dope now, and I'm still drinking, and I start coming apart, man. I mean, if anyone in here's ever done dope before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. My life, like I said, it just started spiraling out of control. So this is all happening, and my cousin, he gets strung out with me, and it comes to a point where I quit drinking altogether. And this internal condition, this is the moment that this stuff quit working. And I couldn't run from myself any further. When we get strung out and the booze quits working, the dope quits working, and I'm just left with myself, with this overamped mind. And that was it, And Jordan ends up moving down to Breckenridge. I moved back to Midland. I've been through a couple treatment centers. Went to treatment at Starlight and stayed for 7 days and left. Came back. Yeah, and then Jordan moved down. Jordan moved down with me, and things are bad, man. I mean, things are bad. I got to a point where I couldn't live with myself anymore, and I didn't know what to do, right? I knew AA worked. I believed that Alcoholics Anonymous kept alcoholics sober. That seed was planted in me from whenever I was a young kid. 17 years old, whatever, however young you want to call that. I just didn't believe that it would work for me. I thought that I was too sick or I thought terminally unique, and I just didn't know what to do. And like the book talks about, in A Vision for You, I got to this spot to where I couldn't imagine my life with drugs and alcohol anymore, or I couldn't imagine my life without drugs and alcohol anymore. And that is the most scary place to be. And the only thing that I knew rationally in my mind, was to commit suicide. So that's what I did. That's what I tried to do. So this is the day before my sobriety date. I've been holed up in my dad's shop for, long time. Probably a week, no shower, losing my mind. Things are after me, just completely out of it. And I just decide, this is it. And I don't know how Jordan and my dad knew that all this was playing out, but Jordan ends up walking into the shop, and I have a shotgun in my mouth, one in the chamber, safety off, my fingers on the trigger, and I'm ready to blow my head off. And she runs up to me and wrestles this shotgun out of my hands. And how I didn't kill myself or kill her or kill my dad, I will never know. Divine act of providence. No shit. And I looked at her, tears in my eyes, just ready to go. And I asked her, why should I not do this? Why shouldn't I? I don't know what else to do. She said, because I love you. And from that moment, everything changed. I had this mind that was telling me that I was just worthless, that I was unlovable, that I was just no good, and that there was no hope for me, right? And for some reason, that broke down the illusion in my mind at the time just enough to where I got to see some truth in it, right? And I remember saying, God help me at that moment. And from that moment on, my life changed. I prayed myself right into a treatment center. Once again. So yeah, it was the jumping off place, 100%. The hideous four horsemen, like the book talks about, man, I was living it. That was my reality. So that's what happened, man. It was a dark place, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, not even my worst enemy. Thank God I don't have too many enemies today, but not too many. But it's been a pretty wild ride. So yeah, I ended up in another treatment center back in Midland. Grew up in Midland. Saw Scott there. I was on so much dope at the time, man. I was in a drug-induced psychosis for almost 2 weeks in that treatment center, and at the time, what I was thinking was that I had killed myself. This was reality to me, that I had killed myself and I was in purgatory. This was like God's sick joke of spinning me back to treatment to straighten my life out, you know. No kidding. That's the only reason I didn't leave treatment, was because I thought the trap door was going to fall and I was going straight to hell. That's the only reason I didn't leave. God, thank God that was a big old dream. But yeah, it wasn't pretty, man. Alcohol and dope completely broke down my self-centeredness to the point to where this message could reach me. So I ended up in treatment, and they put this book in front of me, and I'm losing my mind, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what all these crazy bastards are telling me. They're talking about one day at a time and fully concede your innermost self, and I'm going, man, I think I'm about to be going to oceans here pretty quick, you know. And the message reached me somewhere along in there. You know, I got my sanity back and realized that I was here, and thank God for that. So, yeah, H&I is in treatment, man. The people I was in treatment with too, I started to identify, right? We started telling stories, war stories. You know, there wasn't much solution in it whenever you're in treatment. And I started to identify with these people, and there were people coming into the rooms doing H&I, thank God for them, started sharing their experience, their strength, and their hope with me. And I knew that these people were just like me, but I also knew that they were not like me anymore. And man, that's the deal. You know, that sold it. And I started listening to them. You know, identification, it is like the meat and potatoes of Alcoholics Anonymous. I can't get anyone to take any suggestions from me unless they believe what I'm telling them through my experience. So that's what they did, and I saw them laughing, you know, I saw them having a good time. I saw them enjoying life, and that's all I ever wanted, man. I just wanted to be at peace, you know, that's it. That's what, you know, alcohol and drugs did for me, was they gave me peace. Freedom from myself. So yeah, like I said, man, H&Is. That's why I love doing H&Is now, carrying meetings in the jail. Any way that I can carry the message, man, because that's how it was done for me. So I start reading this book, right? And the way that they break down this book is they turn in these statements into questions. And I'm reading through here. Have I lost the power to choose whether I'm going to drink or not? Yeah. Do I believe that? Yeah. My experience abundantly confirms that. I mean, we agnostics got broken down. Whenever I got to AA, man, I'd been to church, you know, quite a bit whenever I was real young, and I didn't like standing all the time, so that was out, and, you know. That whole thing, I mean, I was done with it. Seriously, that's how that's how my mind works. One little thing, I get a little bit uncomfortable, and I'm out. And so yeah, I was pretty fortunate, you know, because I didn't have a whole lot of belief systems coming in AA. I was pretty agnostic, borderline atheist. I like to get in pissing matches with people arguing about God. There ain't no God. What about the dinosaurs? You know what I mean? And that's just how I was. This real arrogant guy. And yeah, and they broke down we agnostics, and I was like, man. So I've had faith my whole entire life. I'm like, yeah. Faith in myself? Yeah. I was like, yeah. Faith in booze and dope? Oh, yeah. You're like, man, you got the capacity for faith, all right. I was like, I can work with that, you know. And my RA in there, you know, she really broke it down. She's like, what do you want God to be? It's like, powerful, forgiving, you know, want him to be a father, you know. I never really felt like I had a dad a lot of my life. It was more of like a employee relationship. I've gotten to wake up to that today, and I have a dad in my life today, which is a beautiful thing that the program has given me. So yeah, and it really, really broke down this belief system of that there is nothing better than me. But truly seeing my lack of power around craving, obsession, and the unmanageability of my life, it made me to where I have to believe in something. And I believe that has to happen in Alcoholics Anonymous for someone to get sober, is to truly, truly have an experience with my lack of power, or else I'm not going to seek power, which is what the program's all about. So yeah, that's what happened. And there was this night in treatment, I had this real bad dream, and I woke up pulling my hair out, and I was a tornado, and I'd been a tornado all the way up until this in my family's life. There was this horrific dream that I had that essentially I had just found out that 4 days into treatment, found out that Jordan was pregnant, and had this dream that we'd lost a baby. And woke up that morning, and I was about to call him and try and figure out what had happened. I was mad. I was angry. I was so pissed off, full of fear, just as bad as it can get sober. And something happened. They took me down to this meditation little room that we have to do our morning stuff, and I'm about ready to pull my hair out. I'm losing it. And for some reason I prayed, and I prayed that if God will just take care of this and me quit being a tornado in the lives of my family, I'll do whatever it takes. And it wasn't 2 or 3 seconds after that prayer, they knocked on the door and said, "Tanner, we need to talk to you." And I'm going, oh my God, this shit actually happened. Sure enough, get down there, and it's my mom on the phone. I hadn't talked to my mom in months. I completely burned that bridge, and she was just calling to check on me. And Jordan was staying with her at the time, so I knew at that point everything was all right, and there was something that really cared about me that wanted to let me know that everything was okay. So that was kind of my God moment. And I've said foxhole prayers my whole life, so I've had some kind of belief in a God. I think that we all do whenever we're in real bad trouble. And that's what it was. And from that moment, I had this ingredient for this recipe to actually do this deal. And at that moment, and I wasn't even in my third step yet, I made the decision that I was going to seek this solution for the rest of my life with the desperation of a drowning man, like the book talks about, and I was not going to ever stop. And that's what I've done, right? So it was a very powerful experience. So yeah, they get me to write an inventory and stuff, and it was weird. After that experience, it was a true surrender. An act of providence surrender experience. I developed this weird God conscious stuff, like 20 days sober. And I started truly seeing what the book was talking about. I saw it playing out in my life in treatment. And I saw it playing out in my past. And I truly got to see the truth in my selfish and self-centeredness. And I broke out the pen and paper, man, and I started writing and writing and writing and writing. Everything. Everything I could think of. And man, talk about freedom. To truly see that my problems are of my own making today, there's so much freedom in that, man. It still blows me away. I can get away from that so easily and be the little crybaby victim, but truly, all my problems, they start up here, and then they manifest out here, and it all comes from fear. Writing inventory, seeing how self-reliance had truly failed me my entire life, seeing my conduct in every relationship that I'd ever had. Even before doing my fifth step, I got free of a lot of things. So I get all this stuff written out, and they're like, "Man, that's a lot, My RX, like, "Well, you've been thorough." I was like, "Yeah, I'm sick of this shit, I don't want to do this anymore." And so another surrender experience I had in treatment was, I was so ready to do this deal, I asked like 7 or 8 people to be my sponsor. They take us to outside meetings. And So I had all these sponsors lined up to come do my fifth step. I went and told my RA, I was like, I've asked way too many people to be my sponsor. You got to straighten this stuff out, because I think they're all kind of expecting to be here on the same day. And that's going to be a mess. And I told her, I was like, you got to pick me a sponsor, because I can't do this. And she got me hooked up with a guy named Cole Williams from Midland. If y'all ever in Midland and get to meet Cole, man, he's a great dude. And turned out this guy's just like me. You know, we sat down, we got down to the nitty gritty of it, and he shared his experience behind everything, and I, you know, read everything I had written down and shared my experience, and the magic happened. I don't even know how to describe it. Spiritual intoxication, I guess, would be a good term for it. I had never been, the book calls it rocketed in the fourth dimension. To me, that's the present moment. I had never in my entire life lived in the present moment, ever. I live up here, right? I live back there, and I live way up there. And everything looked different. I mean, it was crazy. You know, I got to see the light shining, and the trees, and the grass, and it really, truly blew me away. I was like, man, that's what this is about? And they were like, yeah. I was like, sign me up, you know, I'm going to keep on doing this. Took it into 6 and 7. God, hell, very simple. Take me. Whatever you want me to do, take me. Got out of treatment, got plugged back into my family, you know, started making these amends, a lot of amends, 250, something like that. Started with my family, you know, they saw the change in me, asked them what I could do to make this stuff right, and I started cleaning my mess up. More freedom, more freedom, more freedom. It's an abyss. This program is so unbelievable. How much God do you want? You can have as much as you want. That's been my experience with it. So I'm going and making all these amends, and I think I knock out like half of them in my first year of sobriety. Get into my financial amends. Had $65,000 in debt from, you know, what we do, and start paying the money back. Start changing my behavior, taking my prayer and meditation life to my behavior, and cracked open the door for 10 and 11, right, and start practicing that, getting into a daily meditation life. I'm big on breathing meditations. I love getting in touch with my breath. It's the only reality of my life, you know, besides everything up here. It draws me into the present moment. And it just kind of took off, you know, and I ended up staying in Midland for about 4 or 5 months after treatment, and got going to meetings all the time. Wasn't really doing much for those 4 or 5 months, taking care of Jordan, and just kind of taking it easy, I guess. We were getting ready to make a big move back to Breckenridge, and it was a really crucial time in my life. Got to do a lot of 12-step calls in that time. Got plugged into H&Is, and just carrying the message, right? Started sponsoring people pretty early. It was like 4 or 5 months whenever I got my first sponsee. Thank God for that sick dude, man, because I don't know if I'd still be here. And it really opened up the door to what this was. And so, yeah, we're getting ready. Jordan's, you know, getting bigger and bigger. The reality's coming of we're having a kid, and we moved back to Breckenridge, and all these amazing things started happening, right? I ended up getting a house. I live out on 1,000 acres, out on the Clear Fork of the Brazos. Truly God working in my life just from using this vehicle of Alcoholics Anonymous to get in touch with God. And like I said, all these amazing things started happening. I got plugged into my home group now. Met Renee, James, you know, Kathy, Barbara, Joseph, James. Am I missing anybody? Yeah, and just got plugged in. And I had a lot of trouble making Breckenridge my home. I lived in Midland my whole life, and that was a pretty big hurdle for me. You take a guy like me, you take my medicine away, and I start coming apart at the seams. And untreated alcoholism really started to wear on me at somewhere around a year sober. And I was still doing, I was pretty heavy into the disciplines of 11, not really so much 10. I was writing some inventory, but I just wasn't getting any freedom from it. And I got to a point to where I was about to walk out of AA. No one was doing it right. I don't know if any of y'all ever been in that spot, spiritual giant, you know. Terrible spot to be in. Yeah, sick. Almost walked out of AA over it. Said a little prayer before a meeting one time, and said, "God, I hope James is here, because if he's not here, I'm done with AA." And sure enough, he was there. And I was like, "Man, we need to get to work, because this ain't good." And it was a bad place to be in. It was weird. Before I even met with James, I made a promise to myself that if this doesn't work, I'm gonna blow my head off. That's how bad it got. Untreated alcoholism will kill me, drunk or sober. Absolutely. So we got into some inventory work, looking at the third column in particular, and seeing how I write this script in my life. 7 areas of self. I am. Others should. God, you want to talk about seeing the truth in some stuff? Man, the true insanity of this stuff. I want people to do my will, but whenever they do my will, I'll get resentful at them. You know what I mean? I mean, just pure insanity. And I'm never satisfied. I have this disease of perception and more and control, and it's just unbelievable how bad it is. Can be. So yeah, like I said, man, got to see the truth and some pretty heavy stuff. I didn't realize what I was up against. Myself, ego, this mind that is, man, it ain't no good. Took that to 6 and 7, and truly had another surrender experience around that. And man, life hadn't been the same since. You know, a little bit over 2 years sober. Damn, I got a bunch of time. A little bit over 2 years sober. So this first year of sobriety, right, it was really about survival. And it was like this, way up and down. It was like a roller coaster, right? And some of the best times of my life, you know, I don't know about the future, but we're in that year, you know, fellowshipping with my boys after the meeting. But man, whenever things got dark, it got real dark. Talk about standing in the shower with water running off. You're just like, what am I doing? You know, it's just real dark. I didn't realize this, but like I said, I was up against some stuff that I was completely unaware of, unconscious to. And started working with some new guys, you know, around Eastland, and it really got me fired back up for recovery. It really did. Got around the circle triangle, saw some areas that I was lacking there, especially around inventory. I've written a lot of inventory since then. I have a really, really, really large body of work coming up, and pretty much everything that I've rubbed up against sober in these past 2 years. Seen tremendous amounts of truth in that. Tremendous amounts of truth. I'm so grateful for everything that's been done from the people in AA. It's been a true thing, man. So about 9 months sober, no, not even, probably 6 months sober, we ended up having this beautiful little girl, right? And Sailor Grace is her name. And talk about a spiritual experience. To be there, to be present for that, I don't even know how to describe it. It's of God, you know. I don't know what else to call it. To get to hold this little thing that is so precious and that is just half me, God forbid. You know? Yeah, for real. To get to do that, man. I never thought I would have kids, you know. I never thought that this would be what my life is today, but it is. It's been a real cool thing. The stuff that I put Jordan through, man, through addiction and everything, I completely I was a tornado, right? I was a tornado in her life. I was a tornado in my family's life. I was a tornado in innocent bystanders' lives. And man, amends have really been a powerful thing. And for me, amends are about change, right? If I go and make this approach and make these amends, I have to ask. And another thing I like to do is I like to ask them, how have I harmed you? What am I not aware of? Do you need to tell me how this harmed you? And then how can I make it right? Whenever they're telling me these things, right, I'm very attentive on what they're telling me, because I take that into prayer and meditation. That's me without God in my life, right? I hurt people. I hurt a lot of people. And man, you want to talk about ego deflation. To truly see what my life on self-will looks like, it's very sickening sometimes, but it was told to me pretty early on that that's not who you are, it's who you aren't, and it's just you without God in your life. Whenever you are completely and totally separate from God, this is what you do. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-pity, stepping on the toes of our fellows, and we retaliate, and they retaliate. That's been my experience. It's crazy. Some of the pretty powerful amends that I experienced. My granddad was one. I ended up stealing like $10 from him. I didn't know this at the time, but that $10 had a signature on it, and that signature was a binding contract on a $30,000 deal. So yeah, that was a good one. He ripped my ass on that one. That was a very humbling experience. Yeah, it was. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that all my amends have not gone the way that I want them to go. A lot of them have been very, like I said, very humbling. I've made some amends to some ex-girlfriends in the past that did not go very well. Told me to get bent. Rightfully so. Very, very much rightfully so. And continuing to make these amends, and like I said, now I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and going back through the work this time, again, turning statements into questions and having another experience with this book. I've gotten away from that here recently, but looking forward to getting back into it after this big fifth step. Truly seeking some people out, getting plugged back into the power. I can get away from the program pretty quick. I have this mind that'll take me back into this fearful thinking that drives this delusion in my life that turns into this self-seeking attitude. Then it just turns into full-blown selfishness, and everybody in my life will be sick with me, And I mean, I can push people out of my life just as easy today as I did before. I mean, in a heartbeat. Pretty grateful I can see that today. I didn't realize this, but all the relationships in my past, I always thought that they left me, but it wasn't until that first sex inventory that I realized that I had pushed them all away from me out of fear. And man, to see the truth in that, talk about freedom. This program, I mean, I did not know that that's what this was about. I did not know that Alcoholics Anonymous was, I just wanted to quit getting drunk and high. And whenever they truly got me into this book and showed me these things and I pursued this course of action, it got me in touch with this power to where literally, it talks about in the 11th step, I have this God consciousness, I have this intuition today to where I can say prayers, relax and take it easy, and I'll get an answer back, man. And it is truly unbelievable. 11, it's really probably my favorite step out of them all. I've done a lot of outside seeking of spiritual principles. This is one of them, the Power Now, Awareness, Anthony DeMello, Four Agreements, anything by Don Miguel Ruiz. I encourage anyone in these rooms to do that. Church is another good one, the Bible. I know this is AA, but, the book says to be quick to see where other people are right, religious people, whatever, And that's been my experience, because I still, as of up until a couple months ago, I still had some prejudices towards towards people of religion, and to truly have this experience to where I went on this spiritual retreat and got to see the people, the religious people, which it opened my eyes up to see the humanness in everybody. You know what I mean? And I don't know why there was that big wall built up around that my whole life, but I guess because they made me stand. I don't really know. Either that or they just. I guess the idea of it scared me. The idea of hell scared me. I figured if I walked into a church, that thing was going to burn down. All the dark stuff from the past. It talks about in the book about clinging on to it, and that it is like our most prized possession. Because it can save somebody all of this pain and suffering through my experience, right? And I wanted to be an outlaw. I wanted to do all this hardcore stuff, but man, that wasn't ever me. Whenever it came time to do some real outlaw shit, bro, I was out. I was going back home to mom, you know what I mean? I'm serious. I was out of there. I didn't want none of that stuff. It was all these false personas that I can make for myself, these stage characters like the book talks about. Knowing truly in my heart that I don't deserve them. My ego can attach to anything. It's attached to this program. That's why I got so sick at a year sober, man, because I was so completely attached to the book that it was totally who I was instead of just a vehicle to God. And I can get attached to anything. I'm serious. I can get attached to spiritual principles. I can get attached to hunting and fishing. I can get attached to anything, literally anything. Being a dad, I can rub up against that. Being a husband, being a son. Whenever I truly believe that those things are who I am, is when I get into trouble. Whenever I develop these attachments to them. And to be able to see that through all this inventory process, it's been a very freeing experience. I would have never seen it any other way, Me and my dad today, we have this relationship, right? This real recent body of work that I've done. I've gotten to see the truth and how I have this stage character of being an employee and I have this stage character of being a son. And whenever I'm at work, I'm wanting to be the son. And he's telling me what to do, and a dad shouldn't tell a son to do this shit. And I don't know if any of this is making sense to y'all, but... It's unbelievable. I can get so twisted up over these areas of self that it just blows me away. So yeah, and like I was saying, man, 11, it's really cracked open this deal. And the more I practice 11, the more it really cracks open 2, to where I come to believe even more and more and more, because my second step experience has to grow and grow and grow and meet these new demands and needs in my life around this unmanageability, current agnosticism, whatever you want to call it, right? So, I rub up against it every single day. I either need a whole lot of God coming in, or I need a whole lot of something else that's going to change the way that I feel. And, that's what I try to do, and I don't do it perfectly by any side. I really don't. Very grateful to be woken up to the things that I have. And it really blows me away, too, just being, a little over 2 years sober, the possibilities of just what has happened in these 2 years and carrying the vision of God's will in all my activities, what the potential is. It blows me away. I made this decision in the 3rd step, God, do with me as you will. And I can forget that so easy. And then something stops going my way. I agreed to it. I take the 3rd step that seriously, to where I agreed to this stuff, man. That's whenever I rub up against it, I forget that. And I wouldn't be sober if I wouldn't have truly taken that 3rd step and followed through the rest of the 12 steps. And it's been a very powerful thing. Staying in touch with my 1st step experience is big to me, too. The 1st step for me, it truly drives all the rest of the 12 steps, right? My lack of power. If I don't truly believe that lack of power is my problem, I will quit doing this. I will absolutely quit doing this. I will fall victim to the delusion that I am like other people, and I will pick up again. Absolutely. That has been my experience. Around about 6 months, the obsession was relieved for me, and it's come back one time since then. Thank God sanity was still there, There is no, I've sat outside 7-Eleven sober, contemplating if I'm going to go in and drink again. I've contemplated going to the dope house. It's only whenever I quit doing this that this obsession comes back, right? I get uncomfortable and I want to drink again. I want to get high again. And I got to be careful with that too. The ego used to best me. We were talking about it before the meeting. Not a cloud on the horizon. Things can get so good that I don't think I need Alcoholics Anonymous anymore. I can take credit for God's work just like that, man. And to truly see the truth in that and know that whether everything's going good or everything's going bad, I have to seek the solution. I have to seek the solution because cunning, baffling, powerful, my ego will use the absolute best of me to get drunk again. And that's been my experience my whole entire life. It's not if, but when. If I don't do this thing, it is when. And it will take me out, absolutely. There ain't a whole lot of places left for me to go outside of the rooms of AA. I guess what happened, and me and James have talked about this a bunch, is, a lot of people, the book talks about the first step being we fully concede to our innermost self that we're an alcoholic. And, I've seen a lot of people in the rooms that have, worked the steps, I guess, to the best of their ability, and they still get drunk again, and I guess it's a first step problem. I don't know. I've often contemplated that, and why was I so special to get to do this still? Because I've watched a lot of people come in and out, and I guess for me, what it was the fear of staying drunk, the jumping off place. I guess is pain and suffering that beat me into the state of reasonableness that this message reached me. I think that has to happen. I think that it happens for a lot too. I've seen it happen for a lot. I don't know, man. It's so crazy to me. God's will, I don't know what it is. I've watched a lot of people die in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've had, I think, 6 of my friends in the past 2 or 3 months die in Midland.
Yep. You're over.
Oh, am I done? Oh, I am done. Okay. I thought it was on the hour. Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. I thought I still had 30 minutes. Okay, well, to button this up, like I said, I've had a lot of people die. If I can pass any message to the newcomer, just give it a try. Just do it. I pushed all my chips on AA, man, and my life changed for the better. And it truly, truly opened my eyes to what life is really all about, and freed me of my mind and gave me peace, and that's all I ever wanted. I'm so grateful that y'all invited me to do this. Thank you, Trey, wherever you're at. Thank you for everyone that's been a part of my recovery up until then. It's been great to meet everyone of this group, and I'm so grateful for AA, man. And I'll end it with this. There's an Einstein quote, and it goes something along the lines of, the only way to go through life is that we see everything as a miracle or as nothing as a miracle. And to me, that means what it talks about in We Agnostic is either God is everything or God is nothing. And that's how I like to live my life today. It is truly how I like to live my life today. So grateful for that. Thank y'all for having me.